Hi.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you. I like your pretty flowers there too. That's neat.
Thank you. I have a very sweet hubby who thought I needed them. So
Aw, that's very sweet.
yeah, they're so bright
Aw,
and cheery.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yay.
Yeah. So how are you?
Good. Good, actually.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing through a lot and yeah, excited about the spring and the equinox and the new moon and the astrological new year and all the exciting stuff. So, but yeah,
Yay.
that's good. And I've been at a place of more, I've felt more peace and safety than I can ever recall in my whole life, really. That just,
Oh,
not that everything's flowing smooth, but it's just a deeper level of it that I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. Even when weird stuff's going on, I'm still okay.
yeah.
And so that's really a huge breakthrough, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to celebrate that because that's
Yes. I mean,
it's
that's been
happening.
because that's been a thing for you for a long time, is this
Mhm,
like safety piece and
mhm,
security. And yeah,
mhm.
that's
Yeah.
huge to get,
Yeah.
at least to, maybe not all the way on the other side, but you're in a much
Mhm.
better place. So
Yes.
yay.
Yeah. Yeah. To see that
Yay.
I'm in a different place than I've ever been. And that's really exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge, huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
Good.
I'm keeping the attention that it's like once you go somewhere, you like can't unsee or you can't go back,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like now that I've been
exactly.
here, it's like I don't think I can slip back to how I used to be. And
Yeah.
that's cool too. So
Yeah, exactly. Because this is here now.
yeah.
Before you didn't know it was here, but once you
True.
could see it, it's like, oh, like, okay, like I see that other room and I could be there. So you can't forget that it's there. Like it's always there and you get to just
True.
choose to go in there. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
true.
love
It's a
it.
great analogy. Yeah. Another room I've discovered. That's good. Yeah.
Live in a big mansion,
Yeah, we're
remember?
exploring, lots of exploring, but it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, I'm
yay.
not sure if, I mean, I think Lee's coming. I
Okay.
believe she's coming. If she didn't, we were messaging last night and she didn't
Oh,
say she
good.
wasn't coming.
Okay.
So, and I do want to get started though,
Yeah.
because I do
Let's
want
go.
to
Kick it
start
butt.
moving through this. Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
going to do it. So
Okay.
I'm super excited about this training. I'm super excited about this training. Yes. And I think I said to you, Linda, that I've I think it's been happening with you, and it's also been happening with me, that just putting it out there, this idea of up level, like I am personally, without even really planning to, I see ways in which I'm already stepping into that and doing things differently. And I know you are too. So
Yay.
I think that's really exciting because I do think that there's an energy here that we are riding.
Mhm.
And so I'm super excited about this training because this is, as I did a few iterations, like kept going back over and over and over the content, adding stuff, I kept adding things because I kept getting like a deeper level. Then I would go through it. Okay, here's another piece that has to go in. It's another level and it's another level. So, it's the first time I mean, some of this stuff might be like, some of it is going to be like, well, yeah, that's obvious. Or yeah, I've heard that. Because a lot of this I've heard like for years. And then other pieces, it's like, okay, but when you put it together with that, it's like, oh, so my point in telling you this is you might want to, I don't know how long it's going to be. Okay. I really don't know.
I'm open, so
I
okay.
don't think it's going to be that long, but I don't know because I haven't actually like sat down and gone through the whole thing myself in one go, but like from start to finish. But you might want to, and I probably am going to recommend that you go through this more than once, like listen to it today, and then you might want to go back through it again as you start doing the homework, as like listen again and listen again, because I am finding that like every time I added a piece and then I saw the other pieces again, I was like, oh yeah, and like now I can see myself doing it, whereas before maybe it was just a concept and I
Yeah.
hadn't really like done it in my life. Okay.
Neat.
So I think that's what this training is going to be. It's like, I think they all will be like kind of layered like that. So yeah, because all the 7 areas really like the homework, and we'll get to that at the end, but it's all about, I mean, it's really simple. There's nothing like crazy about it. There's no like, do this meditation and no, it's like literally, you're going to be looking at your life and you're going to be choosing new ways to show up in it. It's as simple as that. But that literally is how we up level. Like we have to make new choices. It's that simple. So nothing here is complicated, hard. It's just a matter of consciously knowing and then consciously choosing to do it in a new way. Okay. All right. So this training is all about our environment. Elevate your environment to Lux 5-star status. Now, does that mean that you need to, whatever your image of Lux 5-star status is, that's what you have to want? Absolutely not. It basically is just a metaphor for whatever your ideal, perfect environment, living environment, moving around environment would be to you. Okay. So the whole goal of this environment training is to shape your environment so that it pulls you in the direction of your future self. Okay. Because the goal of up leveling is we want to live at a higher level. We want to live in our future self's shoes, right? We want to live what they are experiencing, what's important to them, and how they see life. In order for us to do that, we obviously need to do things differently than we're doing now. Because if we were already our future self, you wouldn't have been drawn to this program, and that's actually, it was a silly statement. So scratch that. All right. Okay. So before we get in specifically to environment, because a couple of the things that I'm going to share today, one is we'll talk about why your environment impacts your ability to create the financial or business or whatever kind of success you want. Whatever the vision that you have for yourself in your life, that future you, I don't care what that future you desires or what that vision looks like, your environment impacts your ability to live it right now. So we just need to know that so that we can make some shifts. It doesn't mean you have, like for me, I don't have to live in my dream home to step into my future self. There's ways that I can do that right now, and I already have been doing it, that like moves me into the energy of my future self now. Also, how to determine what to shift in your environment. Okay, because it can get confusing. Like, well, what am I supposed to shift? How do I know what I'm supposed to shift so that I can get in alignment with my future self? So we'll talk about those pieces as well. But before we talk about those pieces, there's a few really important pieces that are going to set the tone not only for this training, but for all of the 7 areas that we go into. So that's another reason why you might want to listen to this one again and again, because I'm not going to necessarily, hit these. I might touch on these points again, but I'm not going to talk through them other than in this training. Okay. So let's look at what these points are, because they are of major importance. The first one is the impression of increase. Does anyone know what the impression of increase is when I say that? Maybe not. All right. Well, you don't need to know because I'm going to tell you. And it's a very important concept when it comes to stepping into something new. So this is an idea that was discussed in the book, The Science of Getting Rich. And one of my mentors, David Nagel, actually his view of what this idea is that the impression of increase takes place when you transform from being a needy person to being a person of value. Now, that is not to say that you're not a person of value if you're a needy person, okay? What it means is that you view life in a different way and you show up in a different way. Instead of showing up trying to get things, you're showing up from a place of service, from a place of giving, and from a place of being value. And you can do that whether you have a business or not, right? Like if you're a mom, and both of you are, we have the choice to show up and be of value every day for our family, right? And of course, sometimes that can get draining. We could talk about that later. But the idea is that you're not showing up from a place of being needy, needing to get, or feeling empty. So if you are feeling drained, there's something off there, okay? But you're showing up from a place of being filled up and full of value, and that value is just dripping off of you. Okay. And so that's the impression of increase that we want to embody and that we want to be standing in. All right. When you come from need or desperation or lack in any way whatsoever, you send out a message that is not the impression of increase. Okay. You're sending out a different vibe. This is a huge problem. And here is why this is a problem. Everything in the universe is seeking increase. Okay, we know that the universe is constantly expanding. We know that nature is always for more life. It's always growing. You put something in a seed in the ground, and even if it's a weed, it's going to grow, right? Because everything, the universe is always growing what you throw out there. If you come from a dysfunctional paradigm, meaning that you feel needy or you feel that you're unworthy of something, the increase that you're seeking will actually cause you to go in the wrong direction. Okay. And this is because of that more life principle, which is a divine principle in the universe. You know, as I said, the principle takes whatever you put in front of it and it grows it. It doesn't like say, well, I'm only going to grow the things that are good. It'll grow good things. It'll grow bad things. You know, this is kind of like that statement that we all know, what you focus on grows. It's the same idea, okay? So if you have dysfunctional ideas in your mind, the more life principle will grow it. Like if you think you're unworthy, you'll see all the ways in which you're unworthy showing up. You'll see how you don't get the invitations and you don't, you know, your ideas don't work, and you're like, because it's growing that, because that is what you are, that is what you're embodying. Okay. And as your dysfunction grows, you actually decline because of the more life principle. Okay. Because it's not taking you upwards, it's making everything worse in your life. So it's kind of taking you down. So the key, and why this is so important when it comes to UPLEVEL and this whole program, is the key is to recognize the rules that you are playing by that are preventing you from making progress. Okay, because everything that we do is based on rules. And it was so interesting. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about her business, and she's trying to do her business in a new way now because she got herself really, really burnt out to the point where she actually got ill. She got ill and she couldn't even function in her business for a while. And this is not an uncommon thing. Like I see this a lot out there. People, they get to a certain level and they do something that like either is way outside their comfort zone or they have a huge month. I know a woman who had a 100K month and then she just completely crashed. Like everything started unraveling in her life. So this is like a common phenomenon that can happen with people. But I was talking to this one woman and she was saying like, okay, I'm now, you know, she's way more uber aware of when she is working in a way that is going to deplete her. And so, you know, we were talking about her business and how she wants to design, like how much she should work and how much like me time or like time in nature she needs. And when, like what days feel better to work and what days don't feel good to work. And I was listening to her and she was like talking about all this stuff. And I'm like, you have so many rules. I could hear all the rules as she was talking, you know, if she has an appointment for like a massage, okay, she has a massage appointment. She was saying that, well, she tries to schedule those on days that are not working days, because if it happens to be on a day when she's working, when she's deemed that that's a working day, she feels guilty having that massage. Okay. So that's a rule. That's a rule that says if I work on Tuesdays, I can't have a massage, right? So we really need to, because like just work till 2:00 and then go get your massage, make that your new rule. So we need to look at our rules because she wasn't even aware of that rule. So we need to look at the rules that we are setting up for ourselves and that we have set up for ourselves and really ask, is that supporting my future self, the vision I have for myself? Is that rule really going to support me and help me grow? Or is that rule a rule that could actually take me down, that could actually expand something in my life that I don't want to expand? Okay. So So that's something to think about. All right. And there's something that I want you to focus on. And we talked about this a little bit in the previous training. It's this idea again of elevating from needing to wanting to knowing. We might not have gone into much depth on this before, but needing to wanting to knowing. Okay. So if we're in a state of need, we're in a deep state of lack. If anything that you need, it's because you don't have it. If you don't have something, you are in a lack energy. You are in a deficit type of energy. Okay. In that deficit type of energy, you can't be fully happy or whole until that need is filled. If you're coming from a needy place, you will not be able to find your fulfillment or happiness without that thing. Wanting is healthier than needing. Wanting is like that desire, but it's still lack because it assumes that you don't have what you want. If it's something you want, you're not possessing it now. So it's not a part of you, right? And so, this is the whole difference between wanting something, having a desire, and actually knowing that you already have it. Like the minute you desire it, you have it. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Knowing is a higher level of wanting. Knowing basically is the acceptance that you already have what you want. You already have it. When you know that something is yours, you're going to act differently than if you just want it or if you need it. You're going to be coming from a different space. You're standing in a completely different energy. You're going to have different thoughts going through your head. You're going to get different ideas. You're going to be making different choices and doing things, doing different actions. Okay. How can you move from needing, like if you need some money, you need a certain amount of money. You've got a bill coming. I mean, I've been in this place many, many times. You have a bill coming up. You want to make the money so that you can pay that bill, and you don't have it. How can you go from a state of needing that money for that bill to knowing that you already have it, even though it's not in your bank account yet? How do you do that? Well, this is something that I personally have been practicing for years. And it was a complete game changer for me when I got this concept of going from needing to wanting to knowing. Okay. And I love the wanting, because wanting feels good. Because when I say that, and I'm saying it feels good because I don't have it, right? But the initial spark, ooh, that would be really cool. That initial spark it's light. It's like fire. It's like, oh yeah, I want that. From that place of that initial spark, what we want to do is we want to move right into knowing immediately. Like right after the spark, it's like, yes, that is mine. I'm choosing it now and I'm stepping into it now. What many people do not do, or what we do instead, is we go into the wanting, like, ooh, yes. And then we immediately downshift into, but I don't know how I can do that. But I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I can pull it off. I don't have all the XYZ that I need to be able to have that. I've never had that before. So what makes me think I could get it? What will they say about me if I get it? Who do I think I am to think I can even have that? And want, right? So when you get that want, that spark of desire, you want to be super aware that the most common path that people are going to take is to go down that want path. That is probably the path that most people that's probably what you go down. Okay. I'm just going to say that's probably where most of you go. Right. So when you get that desire, what you want to practice is knowing this right now, that I have two choices right now. I can either allow myself to start to think the dysfunctional thoughts, and then guess what? The universe is going to use the divine more life principle to grow those thoughts. Or I can choose to get into my knowing that the minute I get a spark of inspiration for something that I desire, that has just been conceived. That is the conception point. If you conceived a baby, would you not believe that you could have that baby? Would you not believe that that baby was a real thing if you did the little test and you saw that you were pregnant? I mean, you can't see the baby. You can't feel the baby at that point. You don't look any different at that point. You probably don't even feel any different at that point. But that conception is when that baby is there. It is there with you now at that point of conception. It is the same with any spark of desire that we get. That spark actually is what tells us it is here now. It is here now. Okay. Or you wouldn't have been able to tune into it. You tuned into its energy and its vibration. Okay. The best way that I know to get to the knowing from the desire, and this is the thing that I've practiced over and over and over now, and I'm getting really good at it. There's a couple of subject areas where it's still challenging, but I'm working through. The thing that can take you there the easiest, in my opinion, and in my experience, is gratitude. Gratitude. Because when you know something that you really desire and that lights you up as yours, you're so thankful. Oh my God, thank you for giving this to me. I feel so blessed. I feel so grateful. I am so happy. It's that energy of gratitude that can give you the knowing, if you can stay connected to the gratitude. Okay. When you're in gratitude for something, you act differently. You are lit up. You're not looking for how this isn't possible. You're like, oh my God, it's here. This is so awesome. Like, I need to celebrate this. I need to talk about this. You're going to be acting very, very different than if you're thinking, well, I don't know how that's ever going to happen. Like, who am I to think that that would be all right for me to have? Like, what are they going to say about me? What if I lose people in my life that I care about because they think that, wow, like, look at that greedy person, and, whatever goes through our minds. Okay. That's not going to, you're going to make different choices then. You're not going to step in as wholeheartedly. You're not going to do the things that you need to do. So needing to wanting to knowing, very important. And it's very tied to this impression of increase, because when you're in the knowing energy, you're in the impression of increase. Okay. Those two are tied together. That's why I'm bringing this up now. Okay. The changes that we're going to be making over the next 6 months in this program are going to get you to that place of knowing and accepting. Okay. That's the bridge we're going to cross. We're going to cross into the knowing and the accepting. Okay. All right. Linda, I see a big smile on your face.
I'm just smiling because the knowing that's actually, this is what's happening. So yes, it's like, it's playing out right now.
Okay, good.
So, yay. I'm very excited about it. Woo-hoo.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So another point I want to cover here is revisiting the idea of self-image. Okay. We talked about the self-image and the future self in the first couple of trainings. But let's talk about it again, because it's really, really important to get this part. Because if we want to create something new, we have to create a new self-image. So what does that mean? Does that mean I have to change who I am? Does that mean I'm not really the real me? No. So let's just get really clear and on the same page about this. So what is a self-identity or a self-image? It's basically a combination of your values and your beliefs and the rules that you are the most committed to. That's your self-image. Okay. So it's not based on anything related to your authenticity. It's literally related onto the things that you have bought into. They have created your self-identity. Okay. So if you think about this, if you buy into new values, new beliefs, and new rules, and you commit to the new things you buy into, you are stepping into a new identity. You are stepping into a new self-image. Okay. And I said this in the first training, but who you are today is not who you really are. Okay. You're just a fragment of the greatness of you. You're just showing up as a fragment of that right now. And who you are today is not who you were 10 years ago. I mean, I had this conversation with Lee. We might think that we're the same. We might have thought the same way about certain things, but if you really think about it, you're like, things now that you did not know then, even as little as 10 years ago. You've learned a lot. I mean, both of you, I know, do a lot of your own personal development work. There's stuff you didn't know 10 years ago. These things make us different. They change our perceptions. They get us thinking differently. They can have us take on different beliefs. They can have us take on different, buy into different values. And we might have changed some rules already on how we live, right? Just based on things we've learned over the last 10 years. So why would we doubt, and I'm bringing this up for a specific reason, why would we doubt that in 10 years, we're going to be the same person that we are right now? Why would we, even if we don't try, we're going to be different. Okay? Most of us are going to be different because we go through life and we have experiences, and these experiences change us. They get us thinking about things differently. And Dr. Daniel Gilbert, he was a Harvard psychologist, and he once gave a TED Talk on the future self. And he said that a core reason why we have a hard time believing that we can be significantly different in the future is because the human being has a much easier time remembering things and a more difficult time imagining, right? When we think to the past, we're just calling on our memory. We're calling on our past memories to think about how we were then. But when we want to think about something in the future that we would like to be, do, or have, that requires imagination because it's something that you haven't ever experienced before, likely, right? So you can't rely on memory. You have to rely on imagination. And as we know, imagination is not something that's nurtured. Like, in fact, as kids, we're told not, get into reality, right? And I mean, I have people tell me that now because I live in kind of an unreal life in my mind now, even. And I still hear people say that to this day to me, like that I'm like not in reality. Fine. I don't like to live in reality. Okay. I like to live in my own world. But if we cannot imagine things, it's going to be pretty hard to create it. Okay. It's pretty hard to create it. And if you've heard of the concept of the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, I mean, this is something I used to talk about with my parenting work too. Dr. Carol Dweck had talked about this. She wrote a book about it, a fabulous book called Mindset, which I highly recommend. Basically saying that with the fixed mindset, everything that we were born with is that's all you got, right? So the traits you were born with, the talents you were born with, whatever you came onto this planet with, that's what you have, and there's you can't be anything more. Okay, you can only make the most of those things, but you can never make more. And what the fixed mindset represents here as it relates to your self-image is it's being overly committed to your current self. That's the fixed mindset. It shows a lack of imagination. It shows a lack of belief in possibility. Okay. It shows a lack of belief in possibility of your own growth potential. And it can create a major lack of confidence when it comes to stepping into anything that you desire. Because if you don't really believe you can, you're not going to have the confidence to do it. Okay. You've got to have some level of belief. Okay. So, and James Allen, I mean, you guys have heard this before, but I come back to this one a lot because it's something that I really fully want to embody is we attract what we are, not what we want. Okay. So if it goes back to this needing versus wanting versus knowing, you're not going to attract your desires. You're attracting what you believe that you are. So if you ever wonder, why haven't I made more money? Why haven't I had more success? It comes down to how you are seeing yourself within your self-image. That's really what it comes down to. So if you do want to create a different experience in anything, small or great, it doesn't matter. You want to start seeing yourself differently, which means shifting your self-identity. Okay. It's getting yourself into that state of fully accepting that what you want is already here. That is a great way to start bridging that gap and taking on a new identity. It's just simply believing that it's already here. So one of the ways that Daniel Gilbert, this psychologist, has suggested that we can do this, that makes it easier, is to see your future self and your current self as different people, okay? Now, this may or may not work for you. I'm just going to throw this out there. Well, this is one possible way you can do this. The reason why he has suggested it, though, is because if you do struggle with your imagination, if you struggle with seeing yourself, like living in the $20 million mansion someday, if you can't really see that, you're not going to believe it enough to take on the traits and to really step into that, right? If you can see the future self as a different person, you can then look at this image of a person and see what traits do they have, what beliefs do they have, because sometimes we can't see ourselves having those beliefs, but we can project that onto somebody else. Okay. So if it helps you to project and I actually used to guide people in this way. I used to tell people, imagine the person that would be living your dream. What do they think about? What do they believe? It's helpful if you can't see that yourself thinking those things. Okay. But what we're going to do over these next 6 months is we're just going to baby step your way into your future self. Okay. Because I still love what Julie said in our Love Yourself Rich program about the turtle steps. And so we're going to take turtle steps into our future selves. I think that's the most gentle way to do it. It feels fun and it feels light and playful. Okay, now I have got to share this takeaway with you. This actually changed something major in my life over the last 30 days. It had me making a huge decision. So here it is. And I think it's highlighted in yellow in your guidebook. Don't stick with something just because your former self chose it. Quit everything that isn't living as your future self and do it now. Do it now. All right. That was a huge aha for me, that there is something in my life that when I brought it into my life, I was in a completely different place. It was 7 years ago. I was a different person 7 years ago. And I made this decision. And I was very happy with my decision then. But when I saw these two lines, don't stick with something just because your former self chose it, quit everything that isn't living as your future self, I thought, my former self chose that. Is that in alignment with my future self? And immediately I knew it wasn't. So I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my energy if I keep that in my life any longer. And it's not easy. It's something I've been committed to for 7 years. It's not easy to let it go. There's a part of me that feels like I'm going to have regrets. And yet, if I come back to this statement again, I don't see my future self doing that in 10 years or 5 years or whatever. I just don't. That it doesn't have a place in my future life, my future self's life. So if I were you, I would write this on a big something, right? In bright colors, write it down. And you can use this statement, this simple statement, to check yourself on everything going on in your life. And we're going to start with environment. So you don't have to look at everything all at once, but just in your environment. If you have things in your environment that you chose and loved 5 years ago, do you see that thing living with you in your future, how you envision your future life? If not, get rid of it. It doesn't belong. It served who you were when you bought it. It doesn't serve your future self. And so anything that is not our future self, we want to get rid of now. Now I can hear someone thinking, well, Jill, if I'm not my future self yet, because some of this stuff is down the road that I envision for myself, why would I get rid of it now? Okay. So if you don't get rid of it, basically, you don't get down the road. It's going to keep you on this path. It's not going to move you to the other path. So we have to actually get there, we have to step into it right now. Putting it off is not stepping into it now. It's just putting it off. And this is why I still don't have my dream home, because I was doing that very thing. I was putting off the things that, are part of that life. I've been putting them off because I don't like to let go of stuff, but I have to if I want to ever live it. So we have to get strong, and that's what this group's for. We can coach you on that in the group coaching, but we do need to start letting go of anything that does not reflect who and where we're going. Okay. All right. Okay. So those are the big concepts I just want to plant out there. I want you to think about this needing versus wanting versus knowing, kind of evaluate yourself with that. Okay. And to start working on knowing that what you want is already yours, using the gratitude practice. And we can talk about all these things more. Keeping in mind the concept of the impression of increase. Okay. Because what you put in front of the divine principle more life is going to grow, whether it's something you want or not. So very, very important. And then this whole idea of, who like your self-image, who do you want to be? And how are you not being that right now? What are the things that you're thinking? What are the beliefs that you're thinking? What do you have in your life and in your world that does not line up with who your future self really is? Okay. These are the things you want to remind yourself over and over as we move through the different areas. Okay. I want to just pause and see, are there any questions?
I had a thought that was actually kind of funny when you were talking about and we have two decisions. We have the spark, and then there's two decisions, and our choices we could go into knowing or go into the dysfunctional rabbit hole. And something hit me at a level there too, because now that's fascinating because we have the spark, but then when we deny it and go dysfunctional, now it's accentuating that more and more, as you were saying prior to that. And that's being brought in more and more as the dysfunctional side versus going for the truth that's there. So
yeah,
that hit me at a deeper level. Like, wow, this is serious business. It's not like, go with it, trust the knowing and go with the knowing. Even when we're scared, that's actually less painful than the other dysfunction. So,
right.
And then we get the joy. So I don't mean to say that anything has to be painful. But if I was stuck in that paradigm, that's helping me step through it. Okay. And then I really appreciate the I am here now, or I wouldn't have had this thought or this spark. So thank you for that reminder that when that comes through is because we're aligned with it, right? That's our future self. It's aligned with it, saying this is here. We're already living this in the future. I'm showing you this now, so you get to take the mechanical steps to get us here together.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Whew. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you. And then the don't stick with something because your former self chose it. Thank you for that. That's big. And sometimes I do because I go into the guilt or like, but this worked before, so I'm going to hang on to it and just dragging it out. Yeah, so that was powerful. Thank you on that. Releasing it is what gets us down that path. Otherwise, we just stay the other way.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. So thank you. I don't have a question. I guess I was just more reaffirming that that's what I'm hearing and I'm feeling.
Yeah, I'm glad you walked through that. I'm glad you shared what kind of came up for you around that. So that's good.
Yeah. That'll help me see it. Yeah, this is good. And it's fun. It's like we're stepping out and I can see it from a different perspective. But, obviously when we're in it, we don't always know what we're doing. And this is very helpful. So fun. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. I've got a question too. This spark of wanting, the want is a spark of desire. Is that coming from the voice of desire or intuition?
Personally, I think these aren't going to be my words. I believe it's coming from God, the divine.
Oh, right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's a spark that you're born.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel that I feel it's that. Okay. So I feel that I mean, you can call it what you want, call it the divine, call it the universe, but it's that higher level guidance that is directing our soul's path in this life.
Mhm.
Because I don't believe that we're ever alone, just our soul on its own, right? Like I feel it's that higher guidance. And some people will call it the higher self. So whether it's your higher self, whether it's the universe, the higher intelligence, God, source, whatever, that's where I feel the seed of desire is coming from. It's coming through your voice of desire, though. That's how you receive it. You receive it through your voice of desire. But it's not being originated from your voice of desire, but that's how you receive it. Okay. You hear it, you feel it, you register it. And I believe that is the higher intelligence that is wanting that experience through you. And it's in alignment with your soul. Your soul is like it's a larger container, of who you are. So, and well, like just thinking about, because otherwise, why do we have the desires that we do, right? Think about why would I desire this? And some like things that I desire, other people don't want. Some people do, but maybe how I desire it's going to be different. So, or how I would receive it would be different, or how I'd experience it would be different. Why do I want what I want, but you want what you want, and they're different things? Why is that? Because you're a unique soul. You're having a unique experience. You're a unique expression. And that your highest path is to experience those things that light you up. Like that's what I believe. So, when we receive that, that's going to be, if we were to step into it, that is going to be the highest path to get you like in line with your purpose and experiencing your greatest fulfillment. But most people see a desire, and either we were told that that's selfish, we were told, don't be so greedy, be happy with what you have. We were given all these messages that are just outright, they keep you from connecting with your purpose. They keep you from living a fulfilled life. And honestly, if you look at people, most people are not that fulfilled. Like how many people are truly like lit up all the time and fulfilled? I'm not saying we need to be lit up all the time, but the vast majority of people are not all that fulfilled in their life. And I believe it starts with denying these soul desires, right? These higher desires coming from the higher intelligence, whatever you want to call that, your divine desires. And a lot of times the desire is not the be all end all. It's the thing that if you would react to it and move with it, it would get you to the next place. So like if you have a lack of clarity over like what you really want in your life, even having a lack of clarity, I know you still have desires. Those desires are showing up to get you aligned with your higher clarity. Like if you would actually step in, but a lot of times we won't even step in to that, because we just it's just all the dysfunction just stops us. And then we never get the clarity because we haven't moved towards the first thing that we've felt the desire for. All of this requires accepting that you're going to fail. Okay. Like you're going to fail. You're going to make a fool out of yourself. You're going to look like an ass. I mean, we have to get over that's a big thing that blocks people. Because anything new is scary. And it's like, well, if I don't do it perfectly, then I'm going to be embarrassed and I'm going to look foolish and I'm going to feel stupid. And I would rather not go through all that. I'd rather just not do it. That's easier, right? But then you don't get to ever get past, that to what's really going to bring you your fulfillment and really help you be on purpose in your life fully. Yeah. So one of the things we need to get comfortable with is making a fool out of ourselves and looking really stupid. Yeah.
Jill, can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
This is clarifying it. So one thing that I've, I think this is what you're saying too, but lately I've really been thinking about these desires that come through, and it's just like any kind of feature we have, that, or whatever skill, like somebody might be really good at, let's say, swimming, or, they have whatever feature, that's their unique feature. It's the same thing. It just needs to be developed. It's not really like anything special. It's just, we come in with it. It's part of who we are, our makeup, and just needs to be embellished more like anything else,
Mm-hmm.
Of us. So that's one thing I've been thinking. And the other, for some reason, the voice of desire now and the voice of intuition, I'm getting confused about with this
Okay.
spark.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but can you just clarify the spark in light of the voice of desire and the intuition, and which one, I don't know, to focus on, but if you know what I mean. I don't know if that's your question.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So the desire is it's the vision. It's the end result that you want. Okay. It might not be the be all end all result, because sometimes, we can only see so far. Like when I talked about at some point, one of my mentors, like at some point in his life, in the earlier times of, like, before he started his business, he only wanted 3 things that he thought was the be all end all. He wanted a piece of land where he could build a house for his family. He wanted a boat so he could, like, go out and fish. And I forget the third thing, but it was something along those lines, right? That was all he wanted. That's all he could see for himself at that time, given his level of conscious awareness. Okay. So he did start to, like, that was enough. That was his vision. That was his end point, his end result. So his voice of desire said, move in the direction of these things. Well, I mean, this man is a multi-7-figure business owner and has been for, like, over 20 years. And that was never in his awareness field to even want at that time. But had he not stepped into, let's go for the boat, let's go. And he did get the boat. He did get the boat at one point. He ended up selling it to then start his business, but he got the boat. The boat helped him sell, helped him have something so that he could buy into a business that he stepped into. But anyways, the voice of desire is that this is what I want. This is what I'm going for. It's like your contextual purpose that we talked about. Like, this is what I'm focused on right now. Your intuition, your voice of intuition, is what guides you there. It's what takes you from where you are to that point, to the end point of that vision. So it's like the steps that you're going to follow. And you don't know what they're all going to look like. But the voice of intuition will guide you to lean into this opportunity and say yes to this opportunity, and contact that person about this. And that's what the voice of intuition is going to do. It's like steering you. It's like your GPS in your car that's taking you to that end point destination. It gives you the hits on what to do. Usually, it doesn't usually tell you what not to do, but it'll tell you what to do. If you follow it, you're gonna, like GPS on a phone doesn't say, don't turn there. It just says, go here, then go here. And if you make a wrong turn, it redirects you every single time. And your voice of intuition does too. So you can't really get it wrong as long as you're always listening to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it sounds like the first is the voice of desire.
Yep.
And then when you can plug into that, then your intuition will help you know which way.
Yep. Because we don't know how to get there. Like, I don't know how to get to where I'm going, but I do know how to tune into my intuition. I do know when an opportunity feels right. And when I get these downloads, I do now know that I need to follow it, and I need to follow it fast, because it'll just pitter out. It'll lose energy. If I get an idea for an article or a video, if I don't make it almost immediately, it's like it's gone. The energy to do it has dissipated. So yeah, go ahead.
Does the desire, that spark, what do I want to say? Does it ever get, it's a spark, which is the beginning. Does it always keep going, or does it ever get to a place where, like, okay, this is really it?
No, it's never really it.
It just keeps going, just keeps evolving and changing until you die.
Yeah, because of the more life principle. And so some people, like when that first, and I think I shared this story of when, I'll make it very quick, but when I had this desire I had no money, I was in a really rough financial time. And so I contacted a friend and I'm like, I want to go to Vegas. Something was telling me go to Vegas. Like that was my voice of desire. At that time, it was like, get yourself to Vegas, right? I had no business spending any money going there, but I needed to go. So I got a very fun friend who was like game to do this with me. She didn't have any money either. We're like, let's do this as a challenge. She thinks the way I think, how we all think. Like, let's see if we can manifest the money, and we're going to do it in like 2 weeks or whatever. It's like really short time frame. And we did it, and we got there. And we stayed. I was very particular about what hotel I wanted to stay in. I have a favorite hotel there that I love. And we got there. We worked it out. And I remember sitting in the hotel room, looking around, being like I did this. And my heart just sank. And I was like, this is, now what? Like, this is, I just felt it was like it was like all the steam went out. It was like a kind of a disappointment. It's like, oh, and that really upset me at the time. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I desired it, and now I'm finally here, and that's how I feel. Like, what is happening? But I realized that, it made sense to me when people say the joys in the journey or something. I'm like, that's what it's about. It's about saying yes to your dreams and moving. And that's where the fun is. I mean, we had so much fun trying to make this thing happen. Like, the cherry on the top was we got there, but it doesn't last because now it's like, okay, now what can I see what I am capable of? Like, where can I grow to yet? And I learned now that now, like when we went to Florida, right? That was something, it was a similar type of energy, just on a different scale, but a similar type of energy. When I was there, I was in heaven every single minute of every single day. I am not exaggerating. My husband is like, Jill, he's like, you don't need to keep telling me how much you love it. Like, I honestly, every night we went on a walk, I'm like, look at this. This is so amazing. I mean, just look, like, I couldn't help myself. It was so beautiful. I was so happy to be there. So I've realized that there is this thing where there is this little letdown after, and I realize it's not about the actual thing. It's just, and I think gotten more in tune with myself and just the being experience. Like, I'm just more embracing the being experience when I achieve these things now. Whereas I don't know what I was expecting when I was at Vegas, but I wasn't being present. I really was not being present. That was the difference. I mean, I should have been walking around there being like, this is amazing. Look at this beautiful hotel room. Like, this bed is the best bed I've ever slept in, which it is. I want to buy one of their beds. Best bed I've ever slept. Like, why I wasn't doing that, I don't know. I guess my consciousness wasn't focused on how important presence is and being. Did I answer your question?
That's actually something that was just coming up this week, thinking about, well, wait a minute, is this it? Not that I've even manifested yet, but I know that feeling of kind of letdown.
Yes.
You work on a big project and it's done. You're like, all of a sudden you feel so sad.
Yes.
They're like this huge space. So, to shift out of that sadness, is it more to just trust, well, there's going to be another spark that comes of this, because that sad place is really sad,
Yeah.
and it's, it's a grief,
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you work through, that?
Yeah, well, first of all, that the more life principle is it's in operation for all of us, for everything in the universe. Nothing can stop it. It's just how it's been designed. So there's always more. People that say they don't want more, they're not really in touch with themselves. They've been so conditioned not to, for various reasons. I mean, I have a brother I think this affects him a lot. He just, he's gotten himself very, very content and happy with where he's at. But I think it's because of dysfunctional thinking. He doesn't think it can ever be more. He's not willing to do what it would take to make it more. That's a big part of that. So he's made choices that this is enough, and he's been able to get himself very happy with this being all there is. Okay, so that's a very special way to move through your life. If you can get yourself really, really happy that this is all there is, that's great for you. I mean, could he have seen what he like? Was there more he could have done that might have been like really, really cool? Absolutely. He's one of the most talented and most intelligent people I know in this world. And I'm not exaggerating there. But no, that's not what his choice has been. So how you get there is know that the more life principle is in operation. And then number two, but be present. Like when you get done with the big project, it's like really be like, wow, look at that. Like, just look at this. Look at how amazing this is. Look at this creation. I am here. I created this. Look, if there's other people involved, like look at the enjoyment of these people. That's kind of how I've been, like when I've done events, certain events, like a speaking event or a retreat or something. And it's like, I will be like that at the event. I'll be like, look at these amazing people. Look at the joy in the face. Look, like I just settle in and just be present to everything. Look at this beautiful room. Look at the, whatever it is.
Can I add a little bit that like just popped in, was thinking about like being mothers and our children when they go through stages. And so I even remember thinking back, going from like toddler to into school age and those, and I actually went through a little grief, like, wow, the toddler stage is done, yet I'm excited about what's next as well. So there's that in between. And I think that maybe Jill could be kind of like this too in life, that we can appreciate, enjoy those stages, but then I also grieve a little because they're not toddlers anymore. And sometimes I think, well, I kind of missed it. It went so fast, or couldn't I have more time there? Yet I've got to take what was beautiful from that and keep moving forward too. So anyway, that just popped in. It kind of relates, I guess.
Well, it totally relates. And I'm really glad you shared that. Because yeah, I'm experiencing huge grief. Because my child is 21. I still think of him as a kid because he's not out of college and in a job yet, right? He still technically lives at home, even though he's not here very much. But no, I wrestle with grief. I have huge moments of like where I can't stop crying. I mean, it's that level of grief over exactly what you're describing, Linda. So yes, so it's like, it doesn't mean we are emotional beings. So yes, we're going to feel things as we change and as we grow. And depending on how sentimental you are, you could feel it more or less, right? Like I'm extremely sentimental. So I feel those types of changes much more deeply than, say, my husband, who is very non-emotional. So yeah. There's not, yes, so I'm glad you pointed that out, because no, it's not like, oh, you don't feel the grief, just only look at what's good. No, if it's there, definitely feel it. Let yourself feel it. But just know that you're just on one step, you're on a platform. And there's so many more platforms available and steps. And this isn't where your desire ends. Your desire did not go to this place to die. There's many more places that you're going to be able to grow to and experience that are going to feel as good, if not better.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. And I just was thinking too, in that sometimes I've gone back and reflect, well, what did I enjoy most about like the toddler stage, maybe? And that like there's this magical wonderment. And so then I can take, okay, well, I like this magical wonderment where they're just looking at the world of, oh, so then now I can apply that now with one in college, and you can do that with Ian as well, that they're stepping into another phase of magical wonderment as they're, stepping into the world. And so to help me through, I have the grief, but also here's where I can still carry what I love forward, the lessons I've learned and those things, to notice the awe and the wonderment at this stage. So anyway, yeah, it's tricky stuff.
It is tricky stuff. And yeah, I love how you shared that. Yeah, because I mean, that's it's a little bit of what I did with, because my son just got back from spring break and I was terrified. If I'm honest, I was
Yeah.
terrified at the kind of spring break he was going on and how he was getting there, the process of getting there. And like there was so many things to worry about. And yet he had told me, he's like, Mom, I've just always wanted to have this kind of a spring break. Like I want this experience. So on the other hand, I'm like, I'm so glad that because I had a spring break experience. I'm like, I'm so glad he's getting to have this spring break experience. He's never had anything like this. And now pictures are surfacing on the internet, like on Instagram, and I'm able to see, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, that is such a cute, like such cute swimming trunks. And oh, like, like, oh, he's got a little sunburn and, but like, it's just, but I'm seeing like, oh, like, look at him with all these guys and it's so beautiful and sunny. And so like, I'm excited because he just had that experience and it's like, the awe and wonderment, it's like the new experience. And I got to kind of observe from afar him having that. So that's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Jill, I just wanted to say, in terms of kids growing up and, being excited about their experience, we're also going through a house and things we don't need. And maybe you'll address this environment, but like things they made when they were little and stuff, how much to keep and how much not to keep, because there's the memory and you love. And part of me is just like, we're not at that stage anymore. I've got, it was great. And they're excited about doing things now in their life. So maybe you'll address this later, but in terms of what you want to keep, and not keep, and even like my mom's house, like photos and stuff. I mean, how do you decide, because it's a big part. So you don't answer this question now if you can't, but that's something at some point, if you can address too, and because I think it's related.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no, it's really hard for me to advise anybody else on that because it's such a individual decision. I mean, some people say just take pictures of things, of the kids' things. And I agree with that to a point, but there is something about the physical paper they touched and their mark on the paper. You can't, that an image of that just isn't quite going to do it. For me. So I go through sweeps, kind of like what I did with this training. This is how I move through my life. I will sweep through stuff once, and then I will sweep through it again. And every time, because I'm going through a decluttering process right now. And every time I sweep through something, more comes out because I get a little more relentless every time. Because I'm like, I need to get rid of crap. Right. So, okay, I can let this go now. I've kept it long enough. So sweeps help, doing multiple sweeps, as opposed to putting the major pressure on yourself. Like this has to be perfect this one time that I go through this drawer. No, it doesn't. Do a sweep, take out anything that isn't obvious. Like I don't need this, leave the rest, and then come back around to it another time. Do another sweep. So that's been effective for me. And you're minimizing all the time. So that's helpful. Yeah. And maybe that's all I have to say on that right now. Let's do
Yeah, that helps.
Sweep.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, which I always try to tell myself, I mean, I'm not a good declutterer, but I remind myself that, Jill, no one could take your memories. And I lost a whole why I had them in this way, I don't know. But I had a brown, like the grocery bag, the brown paper bag. I had one of those chock full of all the pictures from my college years and like my 20s, right, in a bag. And then when I went to England for 6 months, which ended up being 2 years when I was 29, the boyfriend that I had at the time, I didn't know that I was like moving out from my roommate. I thought I was just going abroad for 6 months. When I found out that, oh, they want me to stay here for 2 years, we had to move our apartment. And so I wasn't living with him. I had a roommate, but he came over and helped my roommate and my stuff, like to move my stuff out of there because I was still in England. So that brown paper of all my stuff, everything made it except the brown paper bag of the pictures. And that it still bothers me a little bit. Like I'm mostly over it, but it bothered me for years and years. And I felt like he because we weren't dating by the time, because I found my husband when I was over there. So I came home with a very serious boyfriend, and that guy was out. So so I felt like he did something to the pictures because he knew that I was very sentimental, and that would be the one thing that would really, really hurt me. So that bothered me for decades. Okay, like decades. But what I would tell myself is, he can't take away my memories, and I have all those memories, and I know what I did in college, right? And I know who I did it with, and I know what these people look like, and like all of that. So even, you know, when we're going through and we're getting rid of stuff, it's like, even with the thing, it's like, is this, like, is my memory good enough? Like, is it okay for me to have a memory of this, or do I actually have to have the physical thing? And in some cases, you're going to need the physical thing, but in other cases, maybe just, you know, focusing on the memory and knowing that as long as I have that memory tucked inside, that's going to be good enough, and I can let this go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the last part of this, which is specifically talking about the environment. So why does your environment, and I think you probably know this, but we'll cover it hopefully fairly quickly. Why does your environment impact your ability to create the financial and the business success and the beautiful vision that you want? What is the role of the environment in that? Well, you know, if you've ever gone to a live event and you get like super jazzed up, whatever you're learning, it's like super inspirational, and you get like really, really jazzed up, and you're like, oh my God, you get these great ideas, and you're like, I'm going to implement this, and I'm doing this. This is so awesome. And then you get back home after being gone for, you know, say 3 days or whatever. You get home, you're home for a couple of days. And then you know, the energy of that event, even though you still have the binder with all the stuff and all your notes, you get back into your environment, and you're not in the environment with all the other people who are just as jazzed as you. And the leader of that thing is not there, and you weren't in the beautiful hotel or wherever you were. And you're back in your home, and it's like, you just kind of lose your inspiration, you lose your motivation, and you basically get calibrated back to your original set point, right? So why does that happen? Because that's like a known thing. If you don't implement immediately when you come back from one of those events, chances are, I mean, so many people don't do anything with that information after. Like, it's a very small percentage that do anything. So why does that happen? Because your current self-image is your set point. That is your set point. The environment you surround yourself with reinforces your current self-image. If you're living in an environment that hasn't changed in 20 years, maybe your self-image has not changed in 20 years. Okay, because nothing's changed around you. So if you want to stop reinforcing your current self-image because it doesn't necessarily reflect where you are seeing yourself going, and you want to start aligning with your self-image for your future self, you probably need to make some changes to your physical environment. And the thing that's really exciting about this is that you don't have to make big changes. Like, I don't have to move, you know, I don't have to move into the dream home. I said this earlier, in order to shift into my future self that lives in that dream home. You know, it's kind of like this. I mean, this is me saying this, but like, it makes me think of the butterfly effect. You move, like, if you just move like one object to a different place in your house, that can affect everything. And that sounds silly, but it can. You don't have to move around everything, okay? It's little changes that you make. It's even like adding flowers, you know, that when you do something like that, it changes the vibe, it changes your vibe. You know, when I have these flowers here, I feel different as I'm working, you know, and I see them, I move them so that I can see them when I'm working, but I see them and it uplifts me. It puts me in a different space, okay? So we're not talking about where you have to make, you know, where people in your house are going to be like, what the hell's going on? And why are you changing? Like, no, you don't have, it doesn't have to be like that, right? But it needs to be significant enough that you feel different. that you feel you want to change your set point. You want to change your self-image. So, and when I say environment, I don't just necessarily mean the four walls around you. Okay. It is that, but it's also, environment encompasses like the people that you spend time with, the places that you go, all of that. Now, the people you spend time with, we're going to talk about that next month. That's next month's training. So I would not, for the purposes of this month, focus on the people so much, but focus more on the spaces that you inhabit and the surroundings. And this is even the clothes that you wear. That's your environment too. So like, what do you dress in a way that reflects your future self? How does she dress? And are you doing that? I remember one of my mentors, she was saying when she finally decided that she was going to up level in her life, she didn't use those words, but the same general idea. She's quite a bit younger, and she still had a lot of her underwear from college. And it was like old, like, ripped up stuff. And this was in her drawer. And she's like, if I'm going to be my future self, I need to get rid of all of this underwear and get the underwear that my future self's wearing. Something even that simple that started her trajectory towards where she was headed. So, look at what you put on your body. Look at what sits in your drawers that never gets touched. Look at things that are worn, that are broken, that are dirty, that are, what are you allowing in your environment that just would not reflect where you are going? That's how you want to think about this. And, the truth is that you will probably only get yourself so far from your current environment if it remains unchanged. And this is why, one of the reasons why, if someone is born in the ghetto, they have a hard time changing their life and getting out of that, because their environment is playing a big role in keeping them right where they are. You've got to change. The environment really does suck us in and hold us where we're at. So even if you live in a space that you think is quite lovely, if it's not reflecting your future self, it probably needs some changes. And it's kind of like my story of my aloe vera plant that I think you ladies know, but I had this cute little aloe vera plant because I probably burnt myself cooking, which is not that uncommon. And it was small. It was maybe like, the size of this, right? And in a small little pot, and it was growing great. And then all of a sudden we're like, why is it seems like it's dying. It literally, like the tree, the leaves were browning and they were curling up. And we were giving it water and we were headed by the light and we couldn't understand. And then all of a sudden I had the aha, like, no, it just needs a bigger pot. And so we put this thing in a new, like twice the size pot, and oh my God, it all got green again. It got huge, and we've planted it several times, and now there were two, and now we've actually separated them into two large pots themselves. The point is that, it's just like everything in nature. We outgrow our space, and we can only flourish in a particular space for a certain amount of time. We can only flourish so much before it's time to change our space. Now, another piece about up-leveling your environment is creating new standards from the perspective of your future self around the type of environment that you want to exist within. So standards are like, are you willing to allow, I'm looking at a place on our ceiling right now where like some of the drywall is coming off. Like, am I willing to allow that? Am I willing to allow that to be okay? No, like that's maybe my old self, my current self, but future self is not going to put up with that. No. So now my husband has a job on his list, right? So, you want to look around your space and you want to see, what am I no longer willing to put up with as a standard, and think about it from the perspective of your future self. Does she put up with that? Is that okay with her? Or does she do something about it immediately when it comes up? Does she get it on a list and get it assigned to somebody? to take care of, right? Same with chips in the wall. Same with furniture that might be having a little bit of wear on it, or something, there's some dirt on something, or, you know, if the floors are starting to get dingy, you know, what, anything like that. You want to go through and you want to assess, where could I be making changes that feel much more aligned with where I see myself going? Okay. What are my new standards in my environment? And then once you know, like, what are the things that I really want to create shifts in my environment, then it's about making a plan to implement them. Because if you just have it on a list somewhere, but there's no plan to say, here is when we're going to do this, then you're not actually stepping into your future self. You're still in the place of sort of more of a wanting than a knowing, and an actual, like, making decisions and moving on it from that space of knowing that I don't live this way anymore. Okay. And again, when you assess your environment, we'll talk about that in a minute, you don't want to stick with something just because your former self thought it was cute, thought it would look nice, and so you put it in there, right? Because you're not your former self. So if there's a picture that just doesn't reflect your vibe anymore, or where you see your vibe going, maybe it's time for that to come down. And this is not about spending a bunch of money. I'm not telling anyone to spend a bunch of money. There's lots of things you can do that cost $0. Okay. So your goal with this environment thing, and you've got the whole month is about up-leveling your environment. The goal is to remove everything that conflicts with your higher purpose, your vision. Okay. You're either removing it, you're changing it, you're fixing it, you're upgrading it, so that it is more in alignment. It's all about finding alignment in your environment. If we don't create and control our environment, guess what? Your environment controls you. So you want to start noticing and becoming aware of the impact of your external environment on your goals, so that you can realign with your future self. And the last point I want to say on this is that we are creatures of our expectations. We tend to live up or live down to the expectations that we set for ourselves. And our environment subconsciously sets expectations around what is possible. They reflect your expectations. So you can rise or you can lower yourself based on your environment and the expectations that it is subconsciously placing on you. So keep that in mind. Okay. So question I have here for you, and just looking at what we have left here. So what I'm going to do is, I'll talk through this last piece, and then I'm going to have the activity be in the homework, because the homework is pretty straightforward and simple, and the activity is too, but they can be done together. I was just going to do part of it in our class, but I don't want to keep you any longer. So let me talk through this last piece, and then we'll just go through the activity and the homework quickly. So committing to your future self. It's time to make that decision and that commitment. So the question you want to ask yourself is, are you committed enough to your future self to uncommit to what you currently have? That's the big question. Because you're either committed to your future self or you're committed to your current self and everything that entails. So that might not be an easy question to answer, but that is a good journal question for you before you start anything, is assess your level of commitment around being your future self and being it now. Okay, because if you want to adopt a new set of beliefs and a new lifestyle, you must uncommit to current beliefs and lifestyle and lesser goals. A lesser goal is anything that is not taking you to your future self. And we do that all the time. We commit to lesser goals. Why? Because we see the path. The path is clear. It's like, I'll do that because that seems straightforward and easy. And then when we do that, when we commit to that, by default, we're uncommitting to our higher goals. So you want to question, if you're committing to stuff that is not taking you where you want to go, take another look at that. Because if you do that, you're probably not going in the direction that you want to go. You know, a big reason of why when I left my business, my job, my corporate job to run my business, and I wasn't making enough money, I had to seriously think, do I want to go back and get a job? I mean, I could have gotten a, over 6-figure high paying job, having gone back. And my husband would tell me, like, for a while, he's like, Jill, like, you can just come, because we worked at the same companies. Like, they would hire you in a second. You could come. I mean, everyone knew me. I was respected. I could have gone back to that. But for me, that was a lesser goal. That would have been the easy path. Oh yeah, I could go back and get this salary back and whatever. I know everybody, they know me, easy transition, right? But I knew if I committed to that, I would be saying no to my future self goals. And I had people tell me, like coaches and stuff, no, Jill, that's not what you're saying. But I knew in my heart that is what would happen, because I'd get complacent there, and I wouldn't do what it takes. Like there would be nothing pushing me to do what it takes to succeed in my business. So it's something to ask yourself and really get clear on, am I willing to commit to my vision in that way? And it doesn't have to be full of drama. It's yes or it's no, or it's not yet, or it's whatever it is okay. That is perfect, whatever it is. Okay, so how do you commit to your future self? If you're going to commit to your future self, what does that look like? Because when you commit to yourself, you're committing to when you commit to your purpose, you're committing to your future self. So one way to look at it is to think, what is my purpose, and am I willing to commit to that? Because if you are, then you're committing to your future self. So speaking of your environment, there's 4 questions here. And then in the activity, there's 7 questions. So all of these questions together are things you want to ask when you assess your environment. Questions like, what things in your environment oppose or run contrary to your higher purpose or your contextual purpose? What in your environment is outside your top 3 priorities? What are you still saying yes to that your future self would say no to? Like that thing that I said yes to 7 years ago. My future self would say no to that now, and I am. And what are you continuing to commit to that is taking you away from where you want to go? Are you giving your time and your energy to something that really is not in any demonstrable way moving you in the direction you want to go? So those 4 questions can help. And then the activity is tuning in, reconnecting with your future self. And I would suggest you do this just by getting very simple. Don't have to spend a lot of time, but just get quiet with yourself. Have a journal in front of you. And just take some deep breaths in. And just ask, tune into your future self. Start to see those desires that you have. Start to envision yourself experiencing them. So it's you experiencing those desires. Imagine what it would be like to be moving through your day knowing that you're living that vision. So you're just putting yourself in that space. And then from that space, you can ask yourself, is my environment supporting this vision as I look around my space? Do I spend the majority of my time in a space that reflects the me who is living the life I desire or not? Like, are the things that I'm surrounding with myself with, are they in alignment with this vision, with this me living this amazing vision? And you can ask, because some of the things probably will be in harmony with your future self. What is in harmony? What needs to stay because it lights me up and it feels good? What needs to shift? What should be eliminated? Is there anything that could be added? Are there boundaries around my environment that I need to set? Or new standards that I'm choosing for myself? And then you want to come up with some specific action steps that you are willing to commit to with regard to your environment this month, so that you set yourself up so your environment is pulling you in the direction of your future self. Okay. So maybe that looks like you're going to walk around your home with a notebook, a clipboard, and you're going to just become aware of your environment. Just walk around it, observe. And this could be a really great exercise. Make a list of the different rooms in your house, and then just go one by one and just look around and see, write the things that still light you up, and notice the things that are just not in alignment anymore. So maybe you make 2 columns: things that stay, things that I love, things that feel good, and things that, it needs to be fixed, it needs to be changed, it needs to be moved, it's stagnant, it was chosen when I was in a different place than I am now, it was chosen, it doesn't reflect where I'm going anymore. And just make those lists of things. And then when you've done that for each room, make a plan, just prioritize 1 to 3 things this month that you're going to change. Just 1 to 3. You don't have to change everything. Because like I said, with that butterfly effect, you change 1, 2, or 3 things, it's huge. Okay. And then we'll share in the next call, either one of the next calls, because I think our next call is Thursday and you may not have gotten that far by Thursday. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Everyone's afraid to ask questions because I talk too long when you ask a question.
No, you just explained it well.
No, it's very clear. Yeah.
Very
Yeah, the
clear.
timing of things is just very interesting. Yeah, no, it's fine.
What do you mean?
Because that's exactly what I've been doing. Work. I mean, I've already, I'm in the middle of this process. Yeah. Our house is a mess right now. My daughter is completely cleaning out her room. So yeah.
This is okay. So Linda and I were talking about this the other day in a coaching call, because both Linda and I, before even, like, I was doing this before I even wrote this particular training, and the same thing's happening for Linda. Like, we've been swept into an energy. That's the best way I can describe it. We're in an up-level energy.
On Friday after our call in the afternoon, no, it's in the morning, something came up on my, I never look at these ads, but anyway, on a Facebook ad about a woman who I don't know, the family project. It's about decluttering your home. And I'm not more as decluttering versus organizing and stuff, but how it's really related to your personality. And it's it'll be in Japanese. So I mean, I want to understand everything, but most of it. And it's 3 hours on Friday. I don't know if it's like a pull for something else, but anyway, it's just interesting, that timing. I'll tell you if there's something interesting in it, but I don't know. It looked good so far. Yeah. Her approach.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, it's funny.
That is very funny. Yeah. Yes. We've been swept into a beautiful up-leveling energy. And I love that we're just all in alignment with that. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. It is wild. It's great. Yeah.
It'll take more than a month.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Yes.
And I went through the phase. Yeah, I can. Yeah. I went through the phase too because my parents were coming. So we did like the massive hurry and clean. But then the things I couldn't decide, I froze up on, but then I put them in boxes. Like, okay, set it aside. And then when I'm in a different place, I can make decisions from that place. And then so we got the house and gets bought. But now I'm pulling the boxes out. Okay, which box am I inspired to go with today? And then just little by little, I've been committing to each box and been figuring things out. But this is very helpful because I get caught up in a lot of that. Oh, this was such a fun memory. I'm going to hang on to it. And then I spend 20 minutes thinking about that thing instead of moving through the box. It's like, oh my gosh, I just spent 3 hours on one box because I got all sentimental, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, there might be some grieving going through, I was listening, there's a Pandora station I like to listen to, and it's 70s soft rock. I just love that music, but some of the songs are like very sentimental and they make me cry. And so like, it was like a process. I don't know, Saturday I was going through it. It was a process. That's why I got the lovely flowers, because Jill was feeling very sentimental. But here's the thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was sweet. But here's the thing is, so we have our, it's either like a 5 or 10 year vision, right? Of like, this is me. We talked about that in the first training. So, both of you are saying, well, this isn't like just a month. This is, yeah, absolutely. Right. But like, to get to that vision that we see for ourselves 5 years from now, we have to start right now. We have to, that's what I mean about be the version of you living your dream starting now, is we start making the changes now. We don't wait for 5 years and then say, okay, then no, we got to step into it now. So that's what we're doing. We're all doing it. Yeah. And there doesn't need to be a timeline around when it's done. I mean, I have a rough timeline of, I'm giving myself 18 months because that's when we're thinking about putting our house on the market. When my son is when he graduates. So that's a long time frame, but I got a lot of stuff. I've lived here for 25 years. So, I've got a plan and I'm moving through it. And as I do, like, I'm feeling better and better and better every time. But yeah, so move through your plan. No, it does not need to be done in a month, but I don't think I need to say this because everyone's doing it, but like, you do want to be doing stuff, and know that, keep that thing in mind, that yellow highlighted thing. If it's not in alignment with your future self, probably don't need it, right? You probably don't need it. In fact, you don't need it unless you're really sentimentally attached. But if you have a ton of stuff that you're sentimentally attached to, then that in and of itself needs to be looked at, right? And I probably fall there in that spot. So that requires a little bit of different type of attention. Okay. Because like, what is that covering up, or what is that about? What is that about if you need to keep lots and lots of sentimental stuff? Yeah. So as you do this, if you have questions that come up like that, have a place where you can just write down questions so that we can talk about that in the coaching. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. Any final comments before we hop off?
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah. So I guess, for me, it's Friday, you guys Thursday.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what bubbles up between now and then we'll, yeah. Ooh.
Okay.
Good. All right. All right.
Thank you
Well,
so
bye
much.
for now. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk on Thursday/Friday.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.